Hi, welcome to Haven. This is a podcast that's a safe space for curiosity and conversation. I'm your host, Haven, and today I'm curious about in-laws and how we all married the family too. In-laws and how we all married the family too. I almost titled this episode In-Laws. We married the family too, but I felt like that was maybe downer, but maybe I'll retitle it after this discussion because it is an in the sense of it's a bit unexpected. Even if you've been with the family for a long time, or if you've dated your partner and it wasn't like a quick one, there are some unspoken expectations that you don't realize, or you throw a kid in the mix, and then there's grandparent dynamics that you're not anticipating. And there's just a lot that goes into this that I don't think I was prepared for. And I don't know how often it's talked about. I've gotten a lot of listener submissions asking to talk about like the nuanced dynamic of in-laws, of how do you enter into like a closed family system, or what if you don't like their family? Or what if it's something that like is amazing, but you're not used to it because your family dynamic is screwed up? What if you're the one with the really messed up in-laws that your partner is coming into? And so I thought there's a lot of different angles we can kind of talk about it, because what about the holidays? Where do you spend them? What about when your siblings get married and now someone else is entering into the ecosystem of your family? Again, grandkids entering the picture, it changes where you guys are going to go vacation or spend your time, or how you're going to be together. And so it's ever evolving. Even if you didn't anticipate what it was when you were getting married, it'll probably change. So maybe that's a good thing or bad thing. It's just wait, some other dynamic is going to change it up anyways. So I wanted to bring in a friend who I have known her in-laws longer than I've known her, which I thought was a really fun angle on it, because I can ask her actually specific pointed questions about the family she married into. And I'm not like guessing like, well, maybe what are they like on the other side? I know them very well, and I inherited her as a friend when she married one of my childhood friends, Josh. And so I want to welcome to the episode a lovely lady also in brown, Brittany.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, we're both wearing brown.
We are wearing brown.
And it is the Pantone color of the year.
It is. And it's one of my favorite colors.
Yes, you've always been in the brown before.
I'm a neutral girl.
You're a neutral girl, but also the darks. But it's technically mocha mousse.
Love that.
And you work in beauty.
I do.
So of course you already knew that.
I did. Yeah. I mean, I work with colors all the time. So it's a given. It's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. One thing I love about you, Brittany, is looking at you, I wouldn't say she's a scientist. You are, no offense to like non-beautiful scientists, but I'd say you are very gorgeous. I would be like, oh, she's a marketing girly. Oh, she does something, that's out in the public. No, you work in fashion, in beauty, on the sense of labs and chemicals, and you are very, very smart. What do you do, Brittany?
I'm flattered. I dabble in both, actually. So I'm in innovation marketing. And so what that means in a more fun, sexy way to say it would be I work behind the scenes in the beauty industry for a custom formulation house, and we help brands formulate, and I help them design the formula, help them to market what's in the formula, and it's a lot of fun. I can't say who we formulate for, but if you walked into a Sephora or an Ulta, you'd probably see a lot of our work there. Oh yeah, and you help your friends out with free product, because every time I see you, you just got this whole arm. You're like, oh, this is a new scalp treatment, or here are 5 new nail polishes. And so it really benefits us. It does
to be your testers. Or I remember years ago when contouring and baking was a thing, I was like, what is that? And you like showed me this, like you brought something, you're like, I got you. And it had like the dialogue of like, you put it on this part of your cheek and this. I'll never forget. Every time I blend like a bronzer up here, you're like, go into the hairline. And so I always think of Brittany where I'm like, go into my hairline.
Yeah, you don't want to have that harsh line.
No, you taught me that. And your makeup is flawless.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. But I inherited you as a friend. We would have never met if you didn't fall in love with Josh when you were 5 years old.
Yeah. That's what it felt like.
I was going to say, I was like, you guys were together forever.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your love story with Josh, because it informs the dialogue. Obviously, women are so much more about who they're like in relationship with and married to. But the sake of this conversation, that's kind of what I want you to tell me about who you are in relation to your relationship.
In relation to my relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
So Josh and I are high school sweethearts, but we went to a K through 12 school. So we actually met in 6th grade. So we've known each other for a really long time. And it was kind of a funny way in how it all happened because, you know, when I laid eyes on him in 6th grade, I had no intention of dating him or marrying him. And when it finally came to fruition, it was just funny because it was in front of my eyes the whole time. But some could say we had chemistry together.
Ooh.
We literally had chemistry class together.
This is one thing I love about Brittany. She's the queen of puns. Like, I'll ask her, I was like, you have missed your calling in nailing nail polish colors. Because you know, like on the bottom how they always have it. Like, we did something for someone's bachelorette party and she just like, it was puns galore. I love your brain. And so I walked into that one. And
you did.
I really did. But keep going. You literally had chemistry.
We literally did. I think it's, I have to tell you, part of the humor is I purposely picked the cheesiest one.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to do a setup.
Yeah, like it's got to be the easiest one. Anyways. So we met really early on. And I think walking into, you know, the relationship with my now in-laws, I actually met them, you know, very early on, which I'm grateful for because I almost got to get a preview of them. The way that I met my mother-in-law now, she was one of our chaperones for a high school field trip. And I probably met Josh's dad in the stands at one of his baseball games. So I had only seen them as the Mr. and Mrs. Clark at school before I ever thought of them as an in-law or a potential in-law. So once we did begin to start dating in our last year of high school, it was really interesting to shift from seeing them in that situation to then sitting on their couch and, you know, watching a movie in their house or, you know, meeting their family dog and, you know, having their siblings kind of walk through the house as I'm, you know, sitting on the couch, super shy. It was a really interesting dynamic, but it was also a really special one to gradually kind of grow into their rhythm and just become part of their life. We got to a point where I was at their house every day. And it's really interesting how it's all grown.
What was your perception of them when they were in the stands? Like, what were your assumptions about that family before you were like on the couch with them?
It's a really good question because I think when you are, you know, meeting somebody who, you know, raised your partner or your spouse, you're really looking for the qualities and how do they treat their family? How do they treat the people around them? They were the sweetest. They were so kind to all of the other parents. They were super involved with their kids. They were always there. They were always just getting their hands in everything that they could in a positive way to make sure their kids were growing, their kids were surrounded with a positive light. And that's something that I didn't even realize at the time because you're so young in high school. It's not really something that you're looking for, but looking back at it, it's like, that's exactly who I was wanting to surround myself with. I'm going to start what I'm about to say with, I love Mr. and Mrs. Clark. I think they're amazing. And growing up, I had a very healthy fear of Mr. Clark. Rachel is laughing because one fun story, Rachel, who did my like episode about long-term friendships, is your sister-in-law. And we're like, just stay for the start of this one. Like, you'll get it. What's the difference? And she's sitting here like this.
She's sitting here be like, don't you dare talk about my family. No.
Yeah.
She hears everything. But she's off camera laughing because Mr. Clark growing up, man, he was no nonsense. Like, he was back in the day. Like, you wouldn't meet him now because he's like such a teddy bear. But man, growing up, I was like, I don't want to get in trouble with Mr. Clark.
Oh my
It was like a respect. And also like, he just, I don't know, he like had a certain way of doing things. And then Mrs. Clark was just like just fluid emotion. Like they're kind, oh, so sweet. You're so, oh, I love you, Haven, you know? And I was not feeling the love. It was in his own way because he was amazing as far as like it just steady, grounded, safe. He was never like mean to me, but he had a certain like way of doing things. Is that when you came into the family, even dating, what were they like? Like, what was their relationship that you were observing? What was their relationship to Josh when they were that young?
They were really structured. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but they were never like that with me. And I think it's just because I was the fresh girlfriend coming in. They were, they were so kind, and it was genuine. It wasn't anything.
No, they totally were. I think I was just more like a daughter.
You were. You were.
I think I just had to follow the rules of the household.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that didn't hold them back from, their dynamic with their kids. So they were definitely very structured with the boys. They had a certain way of doing things.
And dear God, you had to be, because they had 3 boys and then 1 Angel and Rachel. But those 3 boys, man, that's a lot in a household.
Exactly. So I got to see that dynamic, which was also really interesting for me because I grew up an only child. So walking into a family of 4 kids was a shock.
Yes. Was it just so loud?
It was loud. I remember there's this one funny story that we still talk about when I ended up going on one of their family vacations, and it was a road trip up to Mammoth. So it's like a 5-hour drive or something. And I was sitting in the middle because I was the smallest between all the boys. So I'm sitting in the middle seat and all the boys are surrounding me, and they're fighting, they're yelling, they're talking about poop. And I remember Mr. Clark made eye contact with me as he's driving in the rearview mirror, and I'm sitting in the middle seat, and I just look at him, and
that's so funny. He's like, well, he's like, gear up, girl.
Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
No, we're not in Kansas. It's so true. Okay, so that, I want to pause there because that's your picture of, okay, this is the family. It's like different dating and then transitioning to marriage. I want to talk about my experience with in-laws.
Yeah.
Because I also was with Aaron for a long time. You were less surprised in the in-law thing. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was stupider than you were, Brittany. I was not self-aware. But Aaron had a really unique childhood. His mom passed away when he was little. His dad was not able to take care of him. So he jumped around from different family members. Mm-hmm. So when I met him, he was living with his aunt and uncle in Texas. And I remember even walking into dating, I had a friend before who was a guy friend, and I never really dated him even though he liked me, but I loved his mom. Like, I would actually hang out with his mom one-on-one, and I was almost like, oh, I might date this guy because I love his mom, but I probably shouldn't do that. Like, she just was my girl. Like, she had all boys. I was a tomboy, but we could have fun. Like, I just was like, I would ask her about things. Like, I just was like, oh my gosh, like, that's like a mother-in-law kind of thing. It was so cool. So I remember coming into Aaron, and I didn't have that connection with his aunt. And I remember being like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Like, that could have been, I had a taste of it. I was like, oh, that could have been really fun. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, like, it is what it is. Like, this is just, I just saw it as, that's just his aunt and uncle. Like, I wasn't thinking of the family dynamics in that. And so when I was coming in, they were so family oriented, and they were great. Like, anytime I would come over, they would feed me. Like, they weren't not unwelcoming. And also, these are people that took in 2 teenage boys to nurture and take care of them. Like, that's a formidable choice. Mm-hmm. That is a choice that I respect, of like, you didn't have to do that. She was very like mama bear, like very like, she saw the terrible situation they were in and offered them a better life. And so she was like no nonsense. Like, she was this female entrepreneur, which I think is hilarious. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, Aaron, you married your aunt. This female entrepreneur, he was like really smart and really kind, but less like, she was more making the decisions of what I saw. And I didn't think at all of how that would impact later. Because when I was especially dating Aaron, we were just dating. Like, I was not thinking beyond dating ever. I just was thinking, this is his family, and like, these are the dynamics, and we'll come over and we'll go to the pool, or we'll grill, or so I don't think I thought beyond that until actually after we got married. I'm like, I should have thought it before we got married. But I thought I knew what I was signing up for, but I'm like, I feel like I'm trying to like bury the lead where I'm like, conflict comes later. So I want to go back to you for this one.
Okay.
When you were like, I'm going to marry Josh, was that engagement process? Was they getting married? How did they handle that? Did they handle it the way you thought they would? Were there any surprises? Because I feel like that's initially the first dynamic that kind of changes a relationship, is the expectations each family has is what should happen in a wedding. And then it's kind of like the two worlds colliding then.
So in terms of when it came to us getting engaged, everything was still pretty much the same. We were still on the same cadence with everything. I think because we were still already so integrated into each other's lives up to that level, nothing changed a whole lot. With the wedding planning, they were very go with the flow. They really gave Josh and I a lot of space to do what we wanted within, certain parameters of honoring, bringing in certain relationships to the wedding and everything of that sort. I think when we really started to see that integration shift was when we got to the holidays. And that's where you start to notice, for us at least, that, we had different traditions. And that's where you have to start analyzing and really understanding it's no longer your own tradition. It's no longer what you grew up doing. You now have a partner, and not only do you have a partner, you have a whole family that grew up doing something completely different than you. And there's a certain realization point where you start to see you and your spouse are now part of a bridge of what used to be going into what it's going to be now. And you have to decide how you want to navigate that.
How'd you navigate it the first year?
So the first year, I think because we had already had a really solid foundation of communication, we were able to sit down and just have a conversation on the table and say, this is what we do. This is what you do. How can we bring them together? We were really fortunate. We were able to actually merge our families that year. And it was Christmas under one big roof, which was amazing. But we did have to sit back and listen to each other about, what are your values? What's important to you? Because I think too, there is a big, what's the word? I think that there's a big pressure for anybody, not just my marriage, but for a lot of marriages, that you're going to instantly gel and everyone's going to get along. And you are all going to have the same values and you're all going to share the same opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong.
Right.
Not going to happen. Or on the flip side, there could be the other extreme of everyone's just going to hate each other.
That would be a different episode entirely.
That would be a whole different episode.
Uh-huh.
I think something that's super important to realize is there are extremes painted on a marriage and with your in-laws, which are you're either going to love your in-laws or you're going to hate your in-laws. And there's so many gray areas when you're going into a marriage because there are so many different nuances that can paint how you feel about your in-laws. Does your spouse come from a broken home? Does your spouse have a lot of siblings? Do they get along with your siblings? Are you the first one to marry into the family? Are you the last one to marry into the family? All of those things are going to shape exactly how it is moving forward. And I think it's so unique to everyone's experience with a marriage and with their in-laws. And so having those conversations out on the table and having that understanding and having that curiosity, I think, for your in-laws is really important. Wanting to know what it is that's important to them, wanting to know their values. So going back to, the holidays for us, Christmas means the world to me. And changing that tradition was a stressful thought for me. I didn't want to change my tradition. Mm-hmm. I grew up with the best traditions. That's why I love Christmas so much. And so having to go over that hurdle was a little scary, but luckily we had, set a solid foundation piece where we could actually sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, this is really important to me, but I also see that that's really important to you. And then we were able to identify what we could do in order to create a new tradition, but make sure that we're honoring everybody and, what makes everybody happy.
Oh my gosh. Hearing you talking, I'm like, I wish I could have heard you on a podcast back then, because I'm thinking that's what to do is like, what do you value? What's important to you? What's important to me? Mine's a story of what not to do, where I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I like going into our wedding, I wasn't even thinking, like I was considering Aaron, but I wasn't considering his family, and not a like harsh way. I just also wasn't considering mine. I was just thinking about me and Aaron. And I totally, we just misaligned. So we had way missed expectations when it came to the wedding. Like, we didn't want kids there other than like a ring bearer and flower girl, because I'd been a part where kids cried and it ruined it, and it's just too much stress on the kid to like have to be quiet and someone would miss it. And so I thought it was an easy decision. It really hurt his family. Like, if we had had a conversation before, I think they would have said, hey, like, it means a lot to us to have kids there, and we could have at least talked about it, because that surprise changed them, and it really caused a drift. And then even this, like, I know what's valuing to them, because I'm going to jump the story of, it caused a weird divide, this wedding. It kind of broke up us with Aaron's family, or it kind of shifted things because we had conflict and we didn't quite resolve it. And I was thinking, yeah, it's a wedding. Like, I don't know why you guys can't just like celebrate this and what it is. But like, years later, we went to Thanksgiving with them, and we were all hanging out one night late at night, and I was like, this feels so good. It feels like it used to. And so I was feeling brave, and I said, you know, it's so good to see you guys, and it feels like old times. I was like, it hasn't quite felt like that since back when we got married. Do you think we could maybe talk about what happened? And like, we could kind of share our perspectives on that and maybe like heal? And his aunt and uncle were game for that. And I look back and I was like, you know, one of the things that I realized was like, I didn't want kids there, but I know it was really important to you guys. Can you tell me about that? And they're like, well, yeah, we feel like, you know, so many people helped raise Aaron and his brother. Like, so many people were a part of that and would want to be a part of this monumental moment in it. It felt like we were excluding people who were a part of like the fabric of helping raise him. And when I hear that, I'm like, it makes sense. Like, maybe I wouldn't have changed that. Maybe I would have said like, let's get a babysitter or something on the side, or I would have had more mature response thinking through it. Or I asked them this, I said, you know what I realized? I said, at the time we just had our friends as groomsmen, and we didn't have like your son and his cousin. I was like, that was totally our bad. Like, we weren't thinking, but of course he was like a brother to Aaron. I was like, was that hurtful that we didn't have him as a groomsman? They were like, and she started crying. She was like, yeah, like that really hurt. And I was like, I wasn't thinking. I'm so sorry. And then I was able to share how, you know, my own pieces. I don't want to overshare any much of the story because it's half someone else's. And so I was sharing the other aspects that had hurt me, and was able to bring that of those actions and how it came to play. And it helped a lot. But it was like years and years of uncomfortability or unspokenness until we actually talked about it. But I'm like, if we had had this chance before to say, what do you guys value? What would be important to you at the wedding? I can't promise we do it, but I'd at least like to honor and hear it. I feel like that was my big opportunity. I was not valuing Aaron's aspect of, even if it was a disjointed family, this was his family that I should have had input on going into it. And it was a huge mistake on my end.
I think that's okay though. And I think that it's mature and it's wise when you do get to that realization. And I think that actually is a sign of a healthy growth of a relationship with your in-laws. And the fact that, you know, people are willing to, you know, sit down and have a conversation. Nobody's going to be perfect in these situations. We're all learning at the same time. You know, it doesn't matter if you have a couple of kids and they've already had, you know, spouses marry into the family. The fact that, you know, you are now in a marriage with a spouse, like, you're brand new territory, and that is a whole new learning piece. And those are all brand new steps that you're all taking together. So everyone's learning in the process. And I think it's important too to not compare your timeline to anybody else's timeline, whether it's your friend's timeline or your spouse's timeline, in terms of the relationship that you have with your in-laws. Because like I said, every single in-law situation has its own uniquenesses, and it's really important when you're ready to externalize that with them. Have those conversations, get them on the table as soon as you can, but on your own time. Because as long as it's inside of you, that's where it's going to stay. And that's where it's going to ruminate. And that's where, things aren't going to be brought to light and things aren't going to get resolved, because I'm speaking, from experience on this, as an avid internalizer. It's really important to get those things out, because they are only to the degree that you put them to in your mind. Once you get them out on the table, it's so healthy, and it's so nice to just talk and have bring someone into that dialogue that was just you in your head.
Totally. I love that aspect too of just the talking about it and bringing it up. And so when I think too of like Aaron, he was more disjointed. So even though he was with his aunt and uncle, like one thing I realized is I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to have the other guy's like super involved mom. The second best is like, we'll just do my family all the time.
Yeah.
Which I was like, well, if you can't have the best, then at least we can go to mine, because I'm so involved with my family. So I would say if I had Aaron as a guest on this one, it would be an absolute inverse story where he's like, I had no idea how way involved your family is. And like, it's the same where I'm like, Thanksgivings and Christmas and these things are important to me. And even when we moved back, he was like, how many family members have birthdays? Because it's like cousins and, and then people get married. And he's like, we're just going to a family birthday party. And if it's not that, it's a game night or it's someone's soccer game. Like, he's like, there's just a lot of opportunities for family. And he, again, internal processor, more introverted. Like, we've had to come to this agreement where I'm like, you don't have to come. Like, you get permission. Like, he actually likes my family. It's just, it is a lot of family time. He's like, do I have to go to your baby cousin's football game? And I'm like, no. But Christmas, yes. Obviously. But that's a huge thing that caught him off guard, was like, oh my gosh, I'm marrying to this family that's really connected, that like, again, has all these traditions and family vacations and everything. So you're also more that perspective. What was Josh going into your family, which was like, you went into his super involved family, but he came into yours, which was more my experience, with Aaron's family, which was just less intense.
Yeah. It's so interesting because that's something that you just don't talk about. Nobody talks about. And it's one of those things where there's a certain expectation that everyone has the same values and the same lifestyle and the same level of involvement. And yeah, it was completely different, I think, going into my family. My family was still super involved, but I think that we just had different values on different things. And so even down to like the little tiny nitty gritty things would be like, Josh and his family were very structured with dinner reservations. And like having that planned in the books. Or my family's like, yeah, like let's go to dinner and we'll pick a spot that day. And it would stress Josh out so much.
Totally.
Or there's an on-time aspect of being on time versus my family was a little bit more laid back. And I remember there was this one time where we were getting ready to go to Disneyland for a family reunion. And it was Josh's first time meeting my family. And I think we had said, let's meet at breakfast at 9. And Josh was ready to go, 8:50. That's
the Clark way.
It is the Clark way. Josh was also the kid who in Little League Baseball, he had set his clothes out on the bed the night before, or he would wear them to bed.
Or he would wear them to bed. Yes.
So going to meet my family for the first time, he was ready to go 10 minutes early.
He laid his clothes out
that night. But I was still getting ready in the bathroom and he was stressing out. And I was like, it's okay. It's my family. We run on a certain standard time. You're good. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is not a good look. But that was his point of reference and that was his value. And it was just really funny because we probably walked out of our hotel room 10 minutes past 9 and every single one of my family members staying on the same floor as us in the hotel all walked out at the same time.
You're like, I told you, we're all good.
Yeah.
That's so funny about the planning versus not, because Aaron's the same. If we're going to a place, like we're all researching, we're looking, we've got the day, like what we're gonna do, and he's like, can't we just go?
Yeah.
And just enjoy. And I'm like, no. Now I'm more like relaxed, but I was like, but if we don't look at the best restaurants, we could just casually go to a not good one, and then we've wasted our time. And he's like,
and then you're missing out.
Yeah, he's like, or we could just see where the city takes us and move around and not be so structured. Or whether in-laws or not. I remember even traveling with a different family once for the first time, and we were like, exploring and everything. I just thought, what time are we going to go back and nap? And they were like, are you 5? Why would we nap? And I was like, it's been a long day. I'm like, we got to refresh. And they're like, no, we're going to keep going. And I just remember being like, what? There's no break? Like, it's the different families running up to each other. Or Clancy, she married JJ, and his family is Guatemalan. And so it's a way different timetable. And now being married like for a couple years, she's on the other side and being like, why can't you guys be more relaxed? Like, why are we so harsh on time? And I'm like, no, hold the line. Yeah. I'm like, we're supposed to be on time. But it is like her in-laws are influencing her probably in a better way to like merge. And it's like, does it really matter on that? Like, maybe it's just because it's the same when you grow up one way, you think this is a sign of disrespect or like whatever narrative you're telling yourself or this matters. But culture dynamics, maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Maybe it doesn't. But it's so funny that you mentioned Clancy's now laid back. You're a little bit more laid back now too. If there's not a time available on the reservation at the restaurant, I'm like, we're not going. Oh my God. We're not waiting.
But it's funny how your partner influences you.
It's so funny.
And it's true. And I feel like also once Aaron brought that to my attention that we overschedule what we're going to do, I can't unsee it. And now it's the same where I'm like, well, what if we just, go by the seat of our pants? Why do we have to do this? It's actually awesome to have an implant into your family ecosystem because just the way you've done things forever doesn't mean it's maybe even the most, like, not the best, but what if you want to try something new and switch it up?
It's so true. And I think that that's the beauty of having a blended family in terms of bringing spouses in and, growing the family with in-laws, because you are adding so many seats to the table with so many different perspectives, values, point of views, etc. And if you're open to it, you can learn a lot.
And it's so funny because, like, you say open to it, learn a lot. And I think I've learned a lot adjacently from JJ through Clancy.
Yes, exactly.
You are close with Rachel's husband, Shane. You said he called you on the way in here. Like, you've learned a lot from him, too.
I've learned so much from him. And he's honestly become, like, my brother. Like my blood brother. Like we're the sibling. He was also an only child.
You guys are the ones who prank the family
together. We are. Well, we're the only two. Well, we're not the only two. We have one other sister. She just lives on the East Coast. We wish we could see her more.
Yes.
And so he and I are together all the time as the married into the family people. So, I mean, we gang up on the actual family a lot.
You know what it makes me think of is, what is that one show with the big three? It was super popular. It has Mandy Moore in it, Sterling K. Brown. It's like super popular.
Okay, babe. What's your favorite fight that we've ever had?
Favorite?
Your favorite fight.
Okay, the first one that comes to mind is when we had Disneyland annual passes, and it would take like an hour or an hour and a half to get there every time. And we are just car fighters. We just now know we can't fight in a car. But you got so upset that we had to pull over. And then my thought was like, wait, are we going to Disneyland or not?
We fought a lot of times on the way to the happiest place on earth. That could be the descriptor of our entire marriage. But we've created a course called How to Fight Better,
with our actual marriage counselor, Dr. Jonathan Cood, who's helped us through many fights throughout the journey of our relationship. But he's given us helpful and practical tools of how to fight better. And we really wanted to share them with you guys. We didn't have a healthy model of conflict growing up. We had to learn these. And so we really wanted to be able to break it down. And it's so much bigger than a podcast episode. These are important things where the modules are small chunks. You watch them with your partner, and then you have an entire discussion together. We're really, really proud of it. It's something that's helped our relationship thrive. So if you go to joinpillowtalk.com, you can get How to Fight Better. It's out now. Okay, back to the episode. This Is Us, the show, where
Yeah.
they have what they say the big three, which is the kids, but then there's this side group text of their spouses where like these people are insane. Like how dysfunctional are the big three? And it made me laugh so hard because my siblings and I, my brother, sister, and I, we have a group chat called the Blood Pack Siblings because we're of the same blood. But then we incorporated the spouses and we call it a second group chat called the Blood Pack Spouses. But I was like, do they talk about us? And they're three away from us, like as you and Shane do.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I think we've got 70 group chats.
Same. My mom creates a new one every week, and we're like, "What's the difference of this one and the last one?" She renames them, and it's like one is My Beautiful Children, and it's all of us without something, and then one of them has like my grandparents in it, and then one's this, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Who's in My Beautiful Children? What is this text thread?"
I know, and you always get the notifications like, "Oh, Mick's reorganizing the chats again."
It's so hard to keep up.
There's too many.
Too many. But okay. But siblings coming in and in-laws changes the ecosystem again.
It does. And it's so interesting too, because it's easier to think about like, oh, I'm gaining an in-law versus they're gaining me as an in-law.
Wow. Uh-huh.
It's a different perspective shift. And I guess it's not a rocket science thought, but when you start to really think about it, it's a realization, to me at least, it was a realization that I now affect another person's life that is coming in a completely different segment.
Wow. I say wow. It's like the podcast wow. Like in the clips. You
Wow.
know, wow.
I like the Owen Wilson wow.
Yeah. Wow. But I think about that because we have been given the feedback from spouses that our family is very closed. Like closed system, which is kind of ironic. But one, I realized everyone in my family is an introvert except for me. I'm the only extrovert. And so if we go to any wedding, it's like a whole party and maybe I'm talking around, my family's in the corner at their own table and they're talking to themselves, or we're going to some other thing. Like my family dynamics are like, we know these people. We're going to hang here.
It's our people.
It's our
It's
people.
comfortable.
Yeah, and they don't go beyond. But as someone coming in, it is really hard to break into our family. And I don't think it's a great thing. Like, we're not the ones who are like, anyone who doesn't have a place to come for Thanksgiving. We've had somewhere like, can we bring my boyfriend and their family? And our family voted no. They're like, what? They're like, you can't. They're like, we really just wanted our family. Like, my family will group vote to keep it just us.
I respect the parameters though.
It makes me laugh because I'm like, I mean, we all follow Jesus. I don't think that's particularly Christ-like, but maybe, yeah, I mean, I got outvoted. But like, I would be more, but I'm like, that's my own personality. But my family dynamic, or I remember even before Aaron dated for a long time, but my grandmother was like, she's a harsh woman. And I remember we were like doing something and he was quiet too. So he said something and she just turned to him. She goes, oh, he talks. Whew. I mean, try to come into that, like not only not welcoming, but like kind of harsh, or we're just tough graders and we're just like, well, we'll see if you're here in a year or two. Like, I would say that it's like, my family does not have that perspective and that maybe we should of, like someone's coming into your system. It's not just about vetting them, but like, what is their experience joining your family?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I have a couple of thoughts on that. I mean, one of them is, how great is it that you have a family that's so tight knit that you're good? You're good with each other.
That's a positive way to say that we're mean to outsiders. Thank you for the rebrand.
I am in marketing. So.
You really are. What's a pun for that one, Brittany? What can we color code that?
I'll come back to that. I do think that it's a good thing to have a tight-knit family. It's a sign of strength. I mean, it is probably really intimidating though for somebody to come into a family and notice that the family has such a strong front. And I'm sure that that is something that's super intimidating to try and break through. And
I also agree, like, even when it comes to like parties or in-laws, like my family's so beautiful. Like my mom is gorgeous. My sister is. my brother's handsman. So I think they also get the feedback. They're like, oh, they're all stuck up. And I want to be like, no, guys, they're just shy. Like, yes, they are like super handsome and so beautiful. It's not because they think they're better than you. They just are all introverts and shy and a little socially uncomfortable. Like, I almost have to preface, like, if I bring my family around, I'm almost kind of wanting to like kick them in their pants, like, go talk to people.
I know.
Or like, but I'm like, but that's them. I don't want it to be misconstrued, but I also want to be like, that's also just my family is like, they're safe and they're comfortable and they're always going to want to go to Cheesecake Factory for a special meal. And
It's true.
I feel like that's the in-law thing too, is like, is your family like, we go to these restaurants and we love these restaurants and these are what we do for all special occasions. Like, that's what you don't expect going into. Is Aaron's like, what if we tried something new? And they're like, you can do that on your birthday.
Yeah.
When you choose.
But this is what we do.
This is what we do. We're going to talk about how good this bread is every time. We're going to say, oh, this cheesecake bread I wish I could get it everywhere else. Every time we're going to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's so true. And yeah, I get it on that front too. I mean, I have RBF. So any girlfriend that comes into the house thinks that I hate them. And I'm like, no.
And you don't have a ton of inflection. So I could also be like, what is she thinking? You know, you're not an easy read.
It's true.
I would be very intrigued. And now I know you. So I'm like, oh, it's Brittany. But I would be like, will we be friends long term?
But that's like my main goal. It's like, let's be friends. Let's have a good time. Also, that's like between Shane and I and our in-law relationship as the two that have been married into the family. We're ready. We're like, we're rubbing our palms together. Like, who's next?
Who's
like,
David gonna marry?
And we want that. We want that for David. We want that for our family. Like, we want to like bring somebody in and like round out the family and just like love on them and get along with them. How unfortunate would it be if like you just didn't get along with your in-law?
Okay, see, that's the part too, is like, one, we did not have that perspective. My siblings and I really wish we did. But we love the in-laws. Like, I love Kayla. I love JJ. Like, we all hang out. Like, we recently took a family trip and we were all playing. It's actually funny. The inside joke that came out of it has to do with your family. We were playing card games late at night, just slap happy. We're like, we're so lucky and so blessed. But we said something, and I actually did not even have that much to drink. I was like, my mom's now trying espresso martinis, and so she's like, you know, testing them. I think I had one drink, but we were just slap happy because it was late. And I was trying to say something about Michael Clark, which is your brother-in-law. And I accidentally, I don't know how I said this. I said Markle Clarkle. I just keep saying Markle Clarkle.
Oh my gosh.
But it's like those kind of stupid things that like anyone listening's like, that's not even funny. And I'm like, I know it's not. But like when you're with the siblings and the in-laws and you have that rapport, like it's awesome to have someone. JJ is like teaching our family about motorcycles and dirt bikes and fishing, you know, and that's like such a unique element to come into it.
It is so true. I actually, going back to like going into your family, I kind of got to do that a little bit.
You did when we did like the getting to know all the families that grew up together.
Yeah.
And you were integrated.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So I was like a pretend in-law coming into it because our families were like, you guys were family, basically.
Oh, and that's why I feel like I was always like Mr. and Mrs. Clark's other daughter.
Yeah.
I feel like all of those kids were like our families. And so it really was, there is that added aspect of like a community in-law where you then come in.
True.
And are like integrated in and changing the dynamics.
Yeah, you're also getting dynamics with new friends and new family friends. And so
yeah, I love you. I love Shane. Like we're all like friends, and it's because of these inherited friendships.
that's true. Yeah, but going into your dynamic, I can now see why people
right? Isn't it so funny?
Yeah.
When you like look back, or I think also the way that each family handles conflict is an interesting thing to explore. So I did not see a lot of conflict growing up. Like it just was not visible to me. So I didn't know how to handle it well. I was kind of just thrashing about. Aaron growing up, he was sharing, which is so funny. I heard this story for the first time a couple years ago. I had no idea. His mom would get upset and like storm out of the car. And like his dad would have to go like find her in a neighborhood to like prove a point. And we realized this one time we were going to Disneyland and he got so upset he stormed out of the car, and I was like, what do I do? Where are you going? Like, can't we just like fight on the way to Disney? Like, but it was if you can't express yourself in words, you need to show this big thing to show how upset you are, and it needs to prove a point. And that was interesting too, is realizing, oh, our conflict can come from our family of origin, and you think it's normal and you think it's typical, but someone else, like maybe it's super quiet, and maybe it's like, we called my dad growing up conflict, he would go in the cave, which is he would just like, it was mentally, but also physically, he would go into his office, and we're like, he's upset, he's in the cave, we don't know when he's going to come out. And when he comes out, like maybe we'll talk about it, maybe we won't. And so I was like, became like ice princess, like nothing's going to hurt me. I wasn't withdrawing like physically, but I was withdrawing emotionally. And so I feel like also kind of seeing the dynamics of, you come into in-laws, and when they have conflict, they're going to deal with it their way, and it's different than your way too. You're entering into different conflict styles.
You are. Yeah, my family, because I was an only child, like we didn't deal with a ton of conflict. It was just me and my two parents, and that was it. So if something was on the table, it was on the table. There wasn't a lot of like, raising your voice. There wasn't a whole lot of like anger. It was just there. And so going in with the Clarks, they're not like combative or angry or anything, but they are logical and they will handle it right away. And so Josh is somebody who's like, we're going to talk about this right now.
They're also not afraid to argue.
They do love to argue. And it's interesting. We've actually come to a place where we'll sit and have conversations, and we might even just throw out a devil's advocate argument on purpose just to strengthen conversation and to, look at different point of views and learn different things. Sometimes the boys will throw out things that they don't even believe.
Yes, I can see it, and I've experienced it.
Yes. So for me, like that's been a huge learning curve and something that I never thought that I would have to deal with, but it has, it's made me stronger. It's made me look at things differently. And they've also learned things from me, who is somebody that's a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved. I'm much more keen to listen and absorb. I'm a total sponge. And I think that there has been questioning before of like, do you have an opinion? Like, why aren't you speaking up? And usually it's because I am processing things and I'm thinking about things, and they've learned that when I do speak up, it's because I mean it, and it's because I have something to say. So there's been learnings on both sides.
And I remember learning this early on with our therapist, where early in a relationship, he was saying all good news and bad news should come from the person to the family of origin. Like, don't put your potential person in that position to get blamed for choices. Like if you have something of, we are coming to Thanksgiving, we're not coming to Thanksgiving, have it be that person so they can see this is their choice. I think later on, as rapport is built, I would say that can change, because I think they also can see like, okay, enough of there's the united front and they're on the same, but like, I think once you have that type of relationship, you can do that, because Aaron has had conflict with some of my family too. And we've had to have these kind of things where the way that they handle it, like sometimes my mom is like, let's have a family meeting. And we're like, no, it could be a phone call.
Yeah.
Like that's what Aaron and I are kind of like, okay, like let's nip it in the bud short and quick, instead of let's make this big to do about conflict. I feel like that's also kind of some of the health we're bringing back into my family, is because sometimes my family won't argue. They like love harmony. And sometimes I have to be like, what do you really think? Like, what is your actual opinion? No, I'm not asking to just say this so it can be like, it can be received. I'm asking because I need to ask you if I'm in the wrong here, if I'm trying to figure this out. Like, I genuinely would like your perspective. And so I think it can even evolve over time, like all these ingredients of different relationships, life experience. It's not just partnership coming in. Like you have a big experience of life, it's going to change your perspective on how you're relating to yourself, your environment. And obviously that has to do with in-laws too.
Yep, it's so true. And I think going back to something super important that you said was united front. I think when you are going into, some sort of a conflict, I think it's super important to level with your partner, understand exactly what their values are and what your values are, and make sure that you're heard. That way you both have a genuine understanding of what's important to you going into something. Again, it doesn't have to be like a massive conversation. It doesn't have to be full of drama. It's just, this is what's important to us, and this is the direction that we want to go with it. And if you know that, then you can navigate anything. You don't even have to be together in the same room. If you're on the same page, on the same playing field, then you really can just glide through any conversation that comes up, because you know that you guys would probably answer within the same way because you're trying to get to that same value.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was interesting as we were preparing for the episode, we were kind of sharing some notes back and forth. And one thing that you had put in your notes was also like, hey, ultimately you can't control your in-laws.
Mhm.
And so can you talk a little bit more about like what's on a couple's side of the fence of their own like individual, we are a family now. Like when someone is together, like this is their own family unit.
Mhm.
And what do they do when the in-laws like either aren't communicating well, or they are abrasive, or maybe they don't have a relationship? How do you straddle that? I mean, like as a couple, but also as you are the bridge to either your family or your spouse is the bridge to their family.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get swept up on everything that is out of your control, because that's what's being magnified at that point in the conversation or in the relationship. And when you take the emotion out of it, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more clear just to see what it is that you can control. And it's important to just focus on that. Reel in the reins on, what you can control on your side of the fence with your partner, with your conversation, and what that looks like to you. Everyone's definition of that's going to be a bit different. For ours, it's what do we value and what do we want to get out of the conversation. And when you can build up that united front, it's a lot easier to navigate the conversation. And I think it's really important not to let it get too far away from you. One of my favorite quotes is, "Distance creates distortion." The further away you get from it, the more distorted it gets, the more drama builds. And so it's really important to get ahead of the conflict before it turns into resentment.
I think so too. And I think it's like not only in the trying to nip it when it comes up, but what do I need out of this? Or what is my ask?
Mhm.
It's not just this like vague thing, but it's saying, here's what happened. Here's what I noticed. Here's what impacted me. Here's what I would ask next time, or what I would ask coming up. Because otherwise it's also just this vague thing and there's no understanding of, well, what's the solution you're looking to come out of this conversation? Like, what are you looking for, like an understanding in the future?
Yep. It's so true. And I think that also remembering these conversations aren't about everyone getting along and we're having a beautiful pie together and it's going to be sunshines and rainbows. There's probably going to be disagreements. There's probably going to be conflict. But as long as everyone's going into it with a listening ear, that's a sign of a really healthy relationship. And if you aren't having conflict in your family, that's not a sign of growth. You should be having conflict. You should be having these conversations. And you're not always going to get to a happy ending with all of these conversations. And that's okay too. I think as you're navigating these, you'll probably know when it's time to put the mic down and just accept peace, and when it's time to dig a little bit deeper and get a little grittier with people and actually grow a little bit more with your relationships.
I like that too, because it came up even in my episode with Rachel talking about long-term friendships. Like conflict is like inevitable. Like it's a part of the healthy dynamic there. And I think it's also, I think about our role even as like a spouse. Like if we're having conflict with their family, the goal is not, and if you have kids in the car, I'm gonna have you mute it because I want to make this point of like, the goal is not to like shit talk their family and to like put down where they're coming from. That's not the goal. Is to point them as the villain in your journey. Like your responsibility is honoring that family and ultimately hoping that they have a great relationship. Like it's not my job to point out all of their flaws. It's not my job to say everything that sucked. Life will bring that up or it won't. Yeah. But my job is like to be a sounding board for his experience with the family. It's not to say that I'm not going to have my own feelings and stuff about it, but my goal is to always encourage his connection to his family. And it may look different. Even when we were early on, our counselor, he was like there was a difference of opinion between his family and me. He's like, well, I'm trying to honor them. And our counselor is like, if you're honoring them, you're dishonoring Haven. And so I can also come from that perspective, is because I know if ever it came to it, he would choose me, but I would never, ever, ever want to put him in a position where he had to. That sucks for him. That would be the worst case scenario. My goal, as even I'm maturing and growing up, is, hey, I'm going to gently direct you towards forgiveness or towards understanding, or yeah, maybe that did hurt, but ultimately, hey, it's family. And it's not saying some scenarios aren't terrible and you should, distance and everything. There's those dynamics, but I just mean at the end of the day, I don't want to be the corrosive person in his ear that is tarnishing a relationship that could be there. That's the thing too. And I would hope that he would always guide me to be like having a healthier relationship with my family. And sometimes that's challenging. Sometimes it's like, hey, you need to have a hard conversation with that someone. You've talked to me enough about it. Like, you need to go talk to them about it. And so I think that's also too of like, as the spouse in the role, it's important to not intentionally drive this wedge between the person who created the person you fell in love with. That family made and shaped that person for better or worse. We all have stuff, but there's something to honor about that, and I think about that when I have conflict. If I'm ever fighting with my sister, my best friend Candace, she knows, like, she won't speak ill of my sister. One, because then I'll jump in and be like, how dare you? That's my sister,
Yeah.
But she's always listening and super safe and gives me a realistic point of view, but she's always for our relationship. She's not listening with the ear of trying to be anti a relationship too.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think too, when you are in a position where maybe you're driving a wedge between your spouse and their family, not only is it kind of corrupting their relationship, it could also come back and corrupt your relationship too, because that's where their foundation started. And even though you're shifting your foundation when you get married and you're becoming a new foundation, you have to remember all of those things that shaped them up to this point and really honor those things and value those things too.
Yeah, and I know that you and Josh don't have kids, but you throw in kids in the element, and that's another switch of like involvement, or maybe you had expectations of how like often they'd be with the family or what they do, or maybe they're saying stuff that you don't agree with to the kid, and like navigating like, oh, please don't tell them to not cry, like, we're okay if they cry, like we don't want to suppress that. Like, how do you have those relationships and those conversations? Like, you've seen the observation of it, so what have you observed about the added element that kids can bring into a family dynamic?
I mean, it brings a whole different dynamic to the family. And I think too, it's important to know that even if you don't have kids at all or yet, it doesn't mean that you can't have the conversation about kids, and you can start observing and you can start setting those expectations or those boundaries. But I don't think it's fair to make any sort of assumptions until you actually have those conversations with the, said grandparent or potential grandparent of the future. And it does affect the group in more ways than one. It can affect family vacations. It can affect, when we're having dinner. Nap times are a thing, not just for you.
Not just for adults. Children need them too.
Yeah. Children need the naps too. And it can affect locations. It can affect even like the room that you're staying in an Airbnb. It all the tiny little details, and just being mindful. That's a whole new thing. We have a 3-year-old in-law now.
3-year-old in-law. It's true. You think of brother and sisters in-laws, but in-laws are kids.
I mean, wouldn't have it any other way. He's the best, but
it's true. It does adjust it. And some of the listener submissions I was having of talking about in-laws, they were like, what if your in-laws watch your like another set of kids more than your kids? Or what if there's favoring, and there's like, it just adds complexity. I feel like also any of these new dynamics enhance what was maybe already there. It just kind of stretches. If there's a hole in some fabric and you pull the fabric under tension, it just increases the hole that was already there too. So sometimes it's like, yeah, you can't anticipate it, but if you see something that's small, you also kind of have to know, okay, likely over time or over tension, this is going to grow. And is it worth acknowledging, is it worth talking about? Or is this one of those in the camp of it's out of my control?
Yeah, that's so true. And especially the out of your control piece. I think a lot of dynamics, whether it becomes, with children or new members, the family's going to keep growing. It's going to keep expanding. And I think it's really important to remember that you're not the only person in the room. Things are going to get more attention. Things are going to get more heightened. And just knowing what you can control and knowing that you're still a part of the puzzle is really all you need to kind of navigate that.
I like that too, because you think of the dynamics of like bringing someone in, but what if you're the sibling and you don't have this partner and someone is coming in to affect your family traditions and taking your brother or sister away? And now, like, it's great that you had both under the same roof for Christmas, but I'm like, if you had a sibling who's like, wow, now we're hanging out with another random family, like I love where you say it's not about you. Like it does change in different seasons. Or I had this listener that was saying, an area I'm so curious about is in-laws. My husband and I are from very different backgrounds when it comes to the homes we grew up in, and yet we grew up 5 minutes down the road from one another. We both have siblings as well, and they've begun starting their own families. It's been a journey navigating all those different communities and levels and unspoken expectations. I'd love your insight on what's worked for you, hiccups along the way, and if you have any colleagues with different experiences. Well, I didn't really bring a colleague with too many different experiences other than you probably handled things better than I did. But talking about like even this expectation of we grew up 5 minutes down the road, my assumption is then no one moves away. Why would you? Your family's here. And then what if you are like, I'm going to go to college here, I'm going to go take a different job here. It is also all of a sudden you can get painted as the light of they took this person away or it changed, you know, if you're not having these conversations before of like, it's not just inviting someone into your dynamic. They may be in what feels like taking someone out of your family dynamic too.
It's so true. I mean, even when you think about somebody driving in a different car next to you on the road, they're right next to you and they live a completely different life, completely different nuances, completely different expectations, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, Josh and I only live 10 minutes away from each other, but there are just completely different dynamics and shifts that happen when it comes to merging families. And that's the reality of it.
And then me having kids, I'm like logging all of this away where I'm like, okay, I want to be aware when people are coming in to like have an environment where I'm like, hey, it's your choice if you go to Thanksgiving or Christmas here. It's you guys are building your own dynamics, like open-handed. But I also want to have such a home that they want to be here. I want them to say, no, I love my traditions. I can't imagine missing it. Like, no, please come on my side. Like, I want to paint a scenario that they want to be a part of, that's thriving, that is like fun memories for whoever that they're bringing in as well. Because like I've seen even some friends where it goes so wrong and it can really mess up situations, you know. But when it works, even when it works, it almost feels like a body. Like even if you have a healthy body, you get the flu sometimes, or you get super sick, or you can't figure out why this other symptom's happening. Like it doesn't mean you're not healthy. It just means you're human. So I feel like in any type of relationship, there are going to be weird times with someone, or it's going to like, you're going to have hurt that didn't get addressed and then it's infected and you got to figure it out. Or like there's ebbs and flows even in great family systems, you know. But I would say I wish I had known before I had got married of the impact that in-laws do play, whether it's the actual relationships or it's just the family of origin that your person is coming from and all that baggage, you know, on both ends that they're bringing into this relationship that's slowly unpacked. And you're like, I didn't know you had that in there. Like that was a twist. And so my biggest takeaway, Brittany, is what you're talking about is like having these conversations of here's what we value, here's what matters to us, and then being open and honoring to hearing the other side as well. That's a big takeaway. And then the second one is, we get to invite someone into this, or like, you know, someone, we are their in-laws. It's not just them to us, and shifting the perspective away from like me to someone else and their journey. And I loved that.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, knowing there's always going to be a completely different, unique situation coming in that door, and knowing that there is space for them in the conversation too.
I love that. Thank you for coming here.
Thanks for having me.
I know, because Brittany and I will sometimes co-work together and we'll have lunch and we'll just like go on and blab about like anything and everything. And I'm like, Brittany, you'd be so interesting on it. Would you come? It took convincing, but I'm glad you came.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It feels like we're just at lunch
I know.
in between our meetings.
Yeah, especially we usually sit in the bright sun anyway.
We
So
really do with no AC so it doesn't affect the sound. Well, thank you for listening. I do think I'm going to rename this title of Uh-Oh, We Married the Family Too. I guess for me it was more of an uh-oh. But I'm glad that you're a part of this and you're listening. Maybe you've been married and you're like, oh, wow, totally get it. Maybe you're dating and this is helpful. But these are just the conversations I find so fascinating because they are impacting my everyday life. And as I mature and change, I look back and I see things that I messed up on and what I'd like to adjust in the future. And, you know, hearing other perspectives is also so interesting to me as well. So I'm glad you're listening. You can like and subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you on the next episode.